tears aren't coming. The tears just aren't coming.
Just to be clear, it looks like he's dead or he is dead.
It just looks like he's dead. He's got, like, blue paint on him or something. But he's going to be fine.
What is wrong with you?
Doctor!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's been a busy few days for DC Comics. Obviously, there was a lot of announcements regarding new titles on DC Black Label, but we also got some announcements regarding cancellations, a few creative team changes, and here to talk with me about this, to break it all down, is my good friend, the Poobah himself, Perch. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. And I do want to say this to the viewers. If this is your first time on Thinking Critical, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you've been coming back and enjoying the videos but haven't subscribed, just hit the subscribe button. Let's make it official and let your parents know that we've got a thing going right here. And of course, give the video a thumbs up because this is going to be a great video. And if you're a fan of Perch but you haven't subscribed to him, you are going to have 3 opportunities to subscribe to his channel in here. There's going to be a link to his channel in the video description. At the 1 minute mark, there will be an icon where you can go to his channel and subscribe. And at the very last 30 seconds, there will be an even bigger icon where you can select that and go subscribe to his channel as well. So if you're loving the content with the both of us, you're probably going to like his content over on Comics by Perch as well.
Well, thanks a lot. Yeah, very nice of you. And it's always fun to talk to you. And we've got a few things to talk about. We've got some comic change-ups happening.
Yeah, so this is really interesting. So Batman and the Outsiders is going to be canceled at issue 17. Batgirl is going to have a plus-size issue 50. That will be the final issue of that run. Justice League Odyssey is ending at issue 20. And we know originally that Batman was going to be canceled at issue 100 and was going to restart over with, I believe, John Ridley on Batman #1. Red Hood and the Outlaws was originally going to finish up at issue 50, most likely to be relaunched with the #1, as well as Nightwing on issue 75. So these things were all supposed to kind of coincide with each other originally. With the original plan, I think this would have coincided with the beginnings of Generation 5. But obviously things have changed a bit now. We're really seeing the new direction, at this point of where DC Comics are going and what has changed after Dan Didio left.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think there was definitely going to be an attempt, and whether it was going to be the entire line of comics, because we didn't hear these same things about Superman or that line. We were really hearing about the Bat Universe. The Bat Universe is going to reboot and change, and new writers, new storyline, new plots, everything else. But a few things happened. I mean, obviously Didio left, and then Tinian got to be very popular. I think his run was extremely well received coming off of Kings, and like I said, plans change. So now it looks like we're going to lean more into what's working, and some titles are going to go away. I guess we're going to talk about that right now.
Absolutely. So the big one that I think is a huge loss, it is Bryan Edward Hill and Dexter Soy's Batman and the Outsiders. Certainly not quite as popular as Batman or Detective Comics, but it was a different take on Batman where he's kind of like the CEO of his own team, where Black Lightning is essentially like his commanding officer that's kind of whipping his young Bat family into shape and kind of going after Ra's al Ghul, people like that. And I think it was actually really great. It was really well illustrated. Bryan Edward Hill certainly has a great appreciation and affinity for Batman, so I am very sad to see this one go.
Yeah, me too. I really liked the comic. I thought it fit really well into DC's plans, and it did a great job of kind of rounding out, fleshing out Black Lightning as a character. I mean, there's some good characterization all over the place, but Signal and it was. I really enjoyed the comic. I really enjoyed the characterization, the spotlight it gave some of these characters that really haven't gotten a lot of good character development in a while. I think Bryan Edward Hill was doing a great job with it, and when this first got kind of announced, there was this comment that this would be the end of this season, kind of leading you to hope or believe that there was going to be a second season or there's going to be a relaunch or something. And then the comments on social media changed a little bit, seemed a little bit more final. So I'm still holding out some hope that we're going to rebrand and come back, and Bryan can keep writing some of this stuff, but it looks a little bit less likely now.
I'm with you. I really think that Signal and Orphan and Katana really could use some TLC, and someone like Bryan Edward Hill, who has an appreciation for some of these more obscure Batman characters, and really flesh them out and give them a full character that I feels like they haven't really had to this point. So I am disappointed that he won't get to work with them anymore. And I'm really hoping for some more Katana and Orphan in the future, because two criminally underused characters, in my opinion.
Yeah, Katana is a great character, and I think Hill was doing a lot with her that again, it hasn't been done in the last 10 years. There's been a number of writers who have used the character, but they always keep her very one-dimensional, one note. And I felt like he was just doing a great job in making these characters strong. And the stronger you make these characters, the more depth you give them, the more backstory, the more chance that eventually maybe they could head into a solo title of their own, or hold their own. We don't see investment in the B and the C characters like we should, and Hill was doing a great job with it.
I will be honest. I imagine that Bryan Edward Hill isn't completely heartbroken about leaving this title, because it started this really weird one-sided internet feud with Black Lightning creator Tony Isabella. I've never really understood where it came from, and I don't think Bryan does either. So I'm sure that when he stops working with Black Lightning, he's going to be happy to have that kind of go away.
Yeah, I think so too. That was a strange feud. I mean, it felt very much like you've got your hands on my creation, but of course, when you're making a character for a big company where the company owns the character, it's not your creation. If you want it to be your creation, you go to Image, you do an indie comic, you don't take a check from DC or Marvel. So the Tony Isabella stuff was always very odd. It always made him look bad. I mean, none of it always made him look bad, and it made Hill, frankly, look very mature and like the adult.
Magnanimous. I would use.
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed that Hill didn't snap. I mean, the guy has way more patience and tolerance than I do. He always stayed out of it. He always stayed very gracious, despite the fact that it was very one-sided, and the respect was definitely not going the other direction. I mean, I think Isabella said some just nasty things that completely over the line, and Hill was always very good about it. So, good guy, good title. So I'm sorry to see it go. I'm very anxious to see what Hill does next.
Absolutely. I do hopefully he gets to revisit Batman. He obviously loves that character. And hopefully one day, my fingers crossed, he will be the writer of the flagship Batman title. And hopefully that will come to pass. The other kind of bigger title that is being canceled obviously came out when DC Rebirth happened. Batgirl. There's been a lot of writers on this. It's been hard to keep up with. There hasn't been a lot of consistency with the character. I think initially, as soon as they changed Barbara Gordon back to Batgirl from the Oracle, I think there's a lot of pushback. I think people love that character. It was always going to be hard to make this title like really a big title in the Bat family. And it feels like it kind of ended up falling through the cracks. There have been some good runs in there. I believe her name was it Marguerite Scott or Marguerite Bennett?
Bennett, I believe, yeah. Or no, Scott.
Marguerite Bennett.
Who is that?
I think it was Marguerite Scott, but she was doing a pretty good job on that series, and then she got replaced by Cecil Castellucci, who obviously was a little bit infamous for her like Me Too take on the New Gods, which was really strange. She always felt like a really terrible fit for Batgirl, and it looked like sales-wise that DC fans agreed with me in the general sentiment.
Yeah, I think it wasn't a great fit for the character, and it is. Batgirl seemed lost. Coming out of the New 52, you've taken away the Oracle identity, and you've got her up and moving again. As you said, a lot of fans kind of really like that story arc of who she became when she was in the wheelchair and when she was Oracle, and they just liked that dynamic of the character. So making her run her own solo title was going to be tough. I mean, she's a beat character in a lot of sense, and then you changed up her status quo from what people would love. So that's another problem. And then as we went from Gail Simone to Cameron Stewart and kind of those runs as well, she, we kind of leaned into kind of a more younger take on her, and there's a lot of the characters had a lot go on in the last 10 years. And it never found its footing, like you said. And so hopefully kind of this is a chance to start over, refresh, and not just try and make it it's a Batman title. She can do everything Batman can do. She's younger and she's a girl. And yeah, frankly, there's more interesting characters. I think Stephanie Brown is a more interesting character. I think Orphan, as we mentioned earlier, is a more interesting character. There's a lot more interesting characters if you're going to do that take of Batgirl. Whereas Barbara Gordon was really good at that kind of Oracle level. So it's like trying to put the wrong person into the a role people do want, but not with her maybe.
Yeah, I imagine we'll see that title relaunch somewhat soon.
Oh, for sure.
Probably not with a big name writer, but hopefully they get someone in there that appreciates Barbara Gordon's history and can incorporate that into the character rather than just kind of it just felt so wishy-washy, at least to me. Yeah. The other big title that was canceled is Justice League Odyssey. Obviously, this one launched out of No Justice, Scott Snyder's Justice League mini event that launched his Justice League Dark, and then Justice League Odyssey, which was originally written by Joshua Williamson. And I really liked this title. I thought it was great. I think Stepan Sajic was originally the artist, and it was one of my favorite DC comics. They changed like direction of the comic. It felt midstream, like right in the middle of a story arc, over to Dan Abnett, who I'm a big fan of. But all of a sudden, it didn't feel like I was reading the same story. He went in a completely different direction than it felt like Williamson was going on, and it kind of threw me off. Yeah, and I never kind of got really back with the title.
No, it did seem to change. I mean, it felt like Williamson had a kind of a Justice League Cosmos kind of feel to it, and then it turned into a very different. Like they changed the team over and everything else. The one thing I'd give Dan Abnett for is he wound up doing a lot of work, kind of like Bryan Hill did with Jessica Cruz, to make that character pretty. Again, they provided a ton of depth that the character hadn't had, and arguably made that character far more of a solidified, well-rounded hero that you can now do more things with. So, I mean, Jessica Cruz got some really great, I think, character building out of this. Unfortunately, it came at the kind of the expense of everybody else. I mean, Azrael, Starfire, Cyborg kind of became very much background players in the book. Still is an interesting read, but I'm with you. It took a definite left turn. It lost some readers in the process, and it also seemed to kind of shuffle off most of the team there as well.
Yeah, it's too bad because it felt like Josh Williamson was really doing something really cool with Darkseid, and like there are these like versions of gods of Azrael and Starfire and stuff, and I couldn't get my head around exactly what they were kind of going towards, and they just kind of dropped it. But I do love Jessica Cruz. Maybe I'll go back and revisit it, but the change in direction kind of threw me off.
Well, it's funny. I think Williamson had more of a cosmic feel. I think part of bringing Dan Abnett in was to in theory lean more into the cosmic aspect of things, but it actually wound up taking away, I think, more than it brought, and it became very much a Jessica Cruz kind of survival story, which was, I mean, again, fun stuff, but it was a different title, and I think it kind of left some value on the table when they made that change.
Yeah. Hopefully, they don't abandon a third Justice League team. I thought it was a cool idea, and maybe they'll revisit it here in the future. I imagine we won't be getting this one rebooted anytime soon.
No, I don't think so. And I think in some ways it's surprising it lasted as long as it did. I think there was at least a lot of belief that this would be a fairly short-term kind of adventure comic, and it did go on. I think we're definitely going to keep getting Justice League Dark with some of the bigger media plays that they have in line for that property, and obviously we're going to keep getting a Justice League comic. But this one I think is probably on the shelf for a while.
So speaking of Josh Williamson, if I didn't mention this before, I'm sorry I'm doing it this far into the video. This is all happening in October. These are from the October solicitations, the information that we have from there.
Right.
Joshua Williamson, obviously, he is leaving Flash in October. He's leaving in September. We'll get to the new Flash team, but he is going to be taking over this Justice League Dark Knight's Death Metal story arc. Makes a lot of sense. He's worked with Scott Snyder a lot in the past. Obviously, he's writing, I believe, a couple of these death metal like one shots. He did some work with Dark Knight's Metal. He obviously did Justice League Odyssey, spinning out of No Justice, which was a Scott Snyder miniseries. He feels like a good fit here, but he is not long term as far as I can understand.
No, he's not, or at least we haven't heard any announcement that he's long term. However, we don't know who the new writer for the Justice League is going to be coming out of death metal, and I think Williamson is a solid candidate for that book. I think between himself and maybe even Deddy, I think there's a couple names there that kind of spring to mind when we think of who the new Justice League writer is going to be. So we'll see. And maybe in many cases, this may be a trial balloon to see if this take fits. But the storyline that he's doing just sounds absolutely bonkers. Of a kind of a just kind of a ragtag Justice League going off. It very much fits with the death metal is kind of just crazy concepts coming at you every direction. I think his storyline definitely fits that.
And that's probably a good thing. And you need people that are going to be, you need writers that are going to be embracing what Scott Snyder's doing, his vision, because it is basically the DC Comics universe, up until 2021. So you need writers that have some buy-in, that are wanting to work with him and kind of execute some of these crazy bonkers off the walls ideas that he's doing in death metal.
No, that's right. I mean, the whole purpose of doing these giant events is to set up, a consistent theme or story within the company. And so we've seen the opposite. We've seen when big name writers come in and they reject kind of the big overarching premise, or they do their own thing, and it feels off, and you don't get that line cohesion. You don't get that people buying, basically other comics they wouldn't normally buy. I mean, the whole purpose for setting this stuff up is so you can make more sales. So you definitely need writers that are going to embrace the theme, whether you like it or not. That's the point.
So the last creative team that we need to talk about, and this one is permanent as far as a writer goes, and this one I find surprising because really during DC Rebirth, there's a lot of increase in sales and interest in DC characters, and after your Batman, Justice League, Dark Detective Comics, Superman, Action Comics, really Flash was like the next character that just had really great sales under Joshua Williamson and was really, really consistent, was always, above like 45,000 for a very long time. That has dropped off as of late. But I don't know if I've read a comic by Kevin Shinnick. I'd never really, the name doesn't pop in my head as somebody that is a known entity in the industry. I'm surprised that they would put him on a character that was that consistently selling well so recently.
Yeah, and this is, like you said, this is a longer term plan for the writer. So this, at least as far as we know, we can tell this creative team is going to continue past death metal and kind of whatever the DC universe looks like past that. From what I've heard, the pitch that was given was incredible. That was just a really great pitch for the character and something that would get people very, very excited about. So I'm curious to see what he has up his sleeve and where it goes. It's going to be a hard act to follow. I think Williamson, like you said, had a pretty strong fan base and a pretty consistent fan base that would come to that book. So it's going to be very interesting to see what he can pull out. We're being promised kind of shocks right out the gate. The first issue has a cliffhanger kind of reveal that is supposed to just really kind of shake things up and change things. So we'll see. The Flash family in general, probably a lot of people are hoping that there's some big rehab that's going to go on there, either by tying in with Wally West or some of this other stuff. It's going to be curious to see what all gets done.
This kind of feels similar to what Marvel's doing with Iron Man, where they're bringing in Christopher Cantwell. Not really a big known quantity. Obviously, he's done Doctor Doom recently, but they're kind of putting him on a bigger character. But Iron Man sales haven't been good for quite a while, where it's almost flip-flopped, where Flash was just so consistent in there. But if the pitch is great, I will be very excited to check it out. Flash is one of the best DC characters there is. I'm a huge fan of Barry Allen, and they can bring some of that great Flash feel and lore to it, and follow up Williamson. Best of luck to him.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll see how it all shakes out, but definitely with the success of things like Flash Forward and kind of the interest that the fan base has in that character and the supporting cast, I think, and also some of the outrage that happened with Heroes in Crisis, with what they did with Wally and everything else. There's definitely a very passionate fan base that wants to see some big things happen. So hopefully that's what we're going to get, and we're going to see the Flash kind of take that step to the next level. So I'm interested. I'm with you. I want to see what comes of it, and it's exciting times to come.
Well, that will basically wrap it up. Like we said, there was a lot of Black Label stuff. We already covered that, but Batman and the Outsiders is going to be ending in October. Batgirl's ending in October. Justice League Odyssey as well. And we got new creative teams temporarily on Justice League for the Dark Knight's Death Metal series. And then the new Flash team appears to be permanent. Perch, did I miss anything? Is there anything else that I needed to mention?
The only other funny thing that came out of this, it's just a small item, is we're seeing the Mariko Tamaki Wonder Woman is coming to shelves. So finally that's going to start shipping around this time frame. And in the second issue, They did a kind of rapid cover redraw. So if you haven't seen that, it's definitely just a funny little thing to pick up on. You got Wonder Woman and Max Lord sitting on the beach in some lawn chairs. Lord's kind of pointing a gun off into the distance, and somebody at DC made the very quick call as soon as the solicitations came out that gun was a bad idea, that maybe it was sending the wrong message on the cover of Wonder Woman, or who knows, somebody complained. And so the gun was adapted to look like a flashlight, and it's
Hot dog would have been better.
a hot dog would have been better. I definitely recommend people check out the before and after, and maybe you can put it up on the screen, but it's a funny, you just got to wonder. And it's a bad sign for that book. Again, one of DC's flagship characters. There's already a lot of concern around Tamaki coming in and what she's going to do to the book. And issue number 2 are redrawing guns to look like kind of the fart gun from Despicable Me. It's quite a thing. You got to check it out.
Well, I will definitely, that will be up on the screen. I got to find that bad boy and put it up. I was unaware of that. And like I said, if you want to subscribe to Perch, there should be an icon on the page right now. And I want to say thank you very much for joining me today, brother. And I will talk to you later.
Talk to you later.